About 100 million years ago, our planet was an entirely different world. A place where no human footprints had ever marked the soil, no cities rose toward the sky, and no machines roared across the landscape. Instead, the Earth was a vast, untamed wilderness where unimaginable beasts ruled supreme, the dinosaurs. These creatures were not merely large animals. They were titans, some taller than multi-story buildings, others with jaws strong enough to crush bone in seconds, and some so fast they could sprint at an astonishing 90 kilometers per hour, blurring the line between predator and unstoppable force. They were, without question, the undisputed rulers of the planet for more than 170 million years, thriving across a time span so long it dwarfs the entire history of humanity many times over. Yet despite their dominance, one day their reign ended. Suddenly and violently erased from existence by an event so cataclysmic that nothing of their kind would walk the earth again. But to understand how such an empire rose and fell, we have to travel deep into the past, to a time when the continents were fused together, climates were unrecognizable, and the very first dinosaurs took their tentative steps into existence. The name dinosaur itself carries a sense of ancient menace. It is derived from the Greek words dinos, kainos, meaning terrible, and sauros, meaning lizard, creating the literal phrase terrible lizard. This term was first introduced in 1841 by British paleontologist Sir Richard Owen, following the discovery of enormous fossilized bones that hinted at a long-lost era dominated by reptilian giants. In the mid-19th century, very little was known about these prehistoric creatures, and the earliest artistic reconstructions, such as those of the Megalosaurus, were based on incomplete fossils and imaginative guesses, often portraying dinosaurs as sluggish, bloated monsters that barely resembled the agile, diverse animals science now knows them to be. Over time, as more fossil discoveries were made and paleontology advanced as a science, the image of dinosaurs transformed dramatically. From awkward reptilian caricatures to sleek predators and colossal herbivores whose forms were as varied as the ecosystems they inhabited. Today, paleontologists have unearthed more than 10,000 individual dinosaur fossils worldwide, representing over 900 scientifically recognized species, each telling its own unique chapter of evolutionary history. Between 2003 and 2022, researchers identified an average of 45 new dinosaur species every year, uncovering incredible examples such as the Stegosaurus elingusson of Chile, a bizarre animal with a tail shaped like a flat blade and a mouth resembling a bird's beak, a combination so unusual it stunned the scientific community. But to truly appreciate their journey, we must go back far further, beyond the days of T-Rex and towering sauropods, to the very dawn of the dinosaurs in the Triassic period. Some 230 to 240 million years ago, this was a time when the continents, as we know them, did not exist. Instead, they were fused into a single massive supercontinent called Pangaea, a colossal landmass surrounded by a vast global ocean. The climate was harsh, dry, hot, and arid, with sparse vegetation and long stretches of desert-like terrain. The earliest dinosaurs were far from the giants of popular imagination. They were small, lightly built creatures, often no more than 2 meters in length. Like the Eoraptor, a swift and agile predator believed to be among the earliest ancestors of all later dinosaurs. These pioneers shared their world with a host of other strange reptiles, including the forebears of modern turtles, and massive crocodile-like predators that at the time were more dominant than dinosaurs themselves. The balance of power, however, was about to shift. Around 201 million years ago, the Triassic period came to a violent end during what scientists call the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. The breakup of Pangaea had begun, with colossal fissures tearing open the supercontinent's crust, unleashing some of the largest volcanic eruptions in Earth's history. These eruptions belched vast quantities of carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, triggering a climate catastrophe. Sulfur aerosols reflected sunlight back into space, causing a sudden cooling, while the greenhouse effect from carbon dioxide caused long-term warming. Rain mixed with these volcanic gases to produce acid rain, poisoning ecosystems and acidifying the oceans. Many of the dominant reptile species of the time, being cold-blooded, could not adapt to the rapid temperature fluctuations and perished. But dinosaurs, being warm-blooded, a trait that allowed them to maintain body temperature despite environmental changes, survived and even thrived in the aftermath. Over the course of approximately 600,000 years of volcanic and climatic upheaval, nearly all large non-dinosaur reptiles vanished, leaving behind a new world where dinosaurs, crocodiles, turtles, and small mammals were the primary survivors. This was the turning point that allowed dinosaurs to step into the role of Earth's dominant land animals. And so, with the Triassic over, the Jurassic period began, a new era that would see the rise of giant sauropods, deadly predators, and even the first feathered dinosaurs capable of flight. But before we leap into that age of giants, it's worth pausing to reflect on just how improbable their survival had been. They were not yet the towering behemoths of the popular imagination, but rather small, adaptable survivors that seized an opportunity when the world's balance of life was reset. In a sense, the dinosaurs' eventual domination of Earth began not with their strength or size, but with their resilience in the face of disaster, a resilience that would define their 174 million-year reign. The Jurassic period, beginning around 201 million years ago, is the true golden age for dinosaurs. It's a time when they not only diversified into countless new forms, but also reached sizes and shapes that defy modern imagination. This was the era when the supercontinent Pangaea continued to split apart, creating new coastlines, shallow seas, and lush river valleys that teemed with life. The global climate became warm and humid, and thick forests of conifers, cycads, and ginkgos covered much of the land. Ferns spread like green carpets, while towering trees reached heights of more than 30 meters, creating canopies under which countless species thrived. With this explosion of plant life came an explosion in herbivorous dinosaurs, and with them, the rise of the true giants. The sauropods, including famous species like Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, and Apatosaurus, were colossal creatures, some stretching over 25 meters in length and weighing more than 50 tons. Their long necks allowed them to browse treetops, stripping entire branches of leaves in one slow, sweeping motion, while their massive tails could be used as whips to fend off predators. Despite their enormous size, these giants likely moved in herds for protection, with young individuals sheltered in the center. Their sheer bulk was a defense in itself. Even the fiercest predators of the Jurassic, such as Allosaurus, would have thought twice before attacking a healthy adult sauropod. Yet the world of the Jurassic was not solely defined by size. It was also an age of incredible diversity. Armored dinosaurs like Stegosaurus patrolled the forests, with rows of tall, kite-shaped plates running along their backs, and deadly spiked tails known as thagomizers ready to deliver bone-crushing blows. Stegosaurus, while large and heavily built, had a brain roughly the size of a walnut, leading early paleontologists to underestimate its intelligence. But modern research suggests it may have had specialized nerve clusters to control its massive body more efficiently. In the skies above, the first true pterosaurs soared. Their leathery wings stretched taut between elongated fingers and their sharp eyes scanning for fish or small prey on the ground. Although not dinosaurs themselves, these flying reptiles shared their world and competed for resources, representing the first vertebrates to truly master flight. On the predator's side of the story, Jurassic was dominated by theropods, bipedal carnivores ranging from small, agile hunters like Coelophysis, to massive apex predators like the fearsome Allosaurus, which grew over 9 meters long and possessed jaws lined with serrated teeth perfect for tearing through flesh. Allosaurus was a master hunter, using coordinated pack tactics to bring down prey much larger than itself, possibly targeting the young or weak members of sauropod herds. Yet even the greatest hunters faced challenges in a world where prey could be both massive and dangerous. Sauropods could deliver fatal kicks with legs the size of tree trunks, and stegosaurs could swing their tail spikes with lethal precision. In the oceans, life flourished in equally dramatic ways. Although dinosaurs never truly conquered the sea, marine reptiles like plesiosaurs and ichthyosaurs dominated the waves. Plesiosaurs, with their long necks and small heads, glided through the water like underwater ballerinas, ambushing schools of fish, while ichthyosaurs resembled giant dolphins and were among the fastest swimmers of their time. The Jurassic seas were also home to ammonites, spiral-shelled relatives of modern squid. Its intricate shells have become some of the most common and beautiful fossils today. This combination of thriving land giants, deadly predators, and flourishing marine ecosystems made the Jurassic one of the most dynamic periods in Earth's history. It was also during this time that the first feathered dinosaurs appeared, particularly in the late Jurassic, signaling a major evolutionary leap that would eventually lead to birds. The discovery of Archaeopteryx in Germany's Solnhofen limestone deposits was a scientific revelation. Here was a creature with the teeth and clawed fingers of a reptile, but with wings and feathers unmistakably adapted for flight. This iconic fossil bridged the gap between reptiles and birds, forever changing our understanding of dinosaur evolution. Yet, while the Jurassic world seemed like a paradise of life, it was not without its dangers. Volcanic activity remained, frequent reshaping landscapes and occasionally triggering local extinctions. While shifts in sea levels periodically flooded coastal plains, the competition between species was intense, with predators constantly adapting to outsmart prey and prey developing new defenses in return. Every day was a battle for survival, and every evolutionary advantage could mean the difference between life and death. What made the Jurassic so remarkable was the stability of its climate compared to the volatile Triassic before it and the cataclysmic Cretaceous after it. This stability allowed dinosaurs to reach their full potential in terms of size and diversity, creating ecosystems so balanced and abundant that they lasted for tens of millions of years. But as the Jurassic drew to a close around 145 million years ago, the stage was set for another dramatic shift. The continents continued to drift further apart. New species began to evolve, and some of the greatest predators and herbivores the world had ever seen would emerge in the coming Cretaceous period. If the Jurassic had been the age of giants, the Cretaceous would be the age of innovation and ultimately the stage for the most famous extinction event in Earth's history. The Cretaceous period, spanning from roughly 145 to 66 million years ago, was the longest and perhaps most transformative chapter in dinosaur history, a time when evolution seemed to be in overdrive, producing an extraordinary array of specialized species and behaviors that pushed the boundaries of what life on land could achieve. By now, the continents had drifted even further apart, breaking up old ecosystems and forcing dinosaurs to adapt to a patchwork of climates from lush, tropical lowlands to arid deserts and even temperate forests in the polar regions. Geographic isolation spurred evolutionary innovation, with different regions producing unique and often bizarre dinosaurs. In North America, the land was split by a shallow inland sea, the Western Interior Seaway, which turned the continent into two massive landmasses, Laramidia to the west and Appalachia to the east. On Laramidia, vast herds of horned dinosaurs like Triceratops and Centrosaurus roamed the plains, their ornate frills and deadly horns serving both for defense and as display structures in fierce mating contests. Alongside them, duck-billed hadrosaurs, the cows of the Cretaceous, grazed in herds that may have numbered in the thousands, using their elaborate crests not just for display, but also as resonating chambers for low, mournful calls that carried across the floodplains. But in this world of abundance and diversity, one predator would rise to a level of dominance unmatched in terrestrial history: Tyrannosaurus rex. The tyrant lizard king was the ultimate expression of predatory evolution, standing over 4 meters tall at the hips, stretching more than 12 meters in length, wielding a skull nearly 1.5 meters long, filled with teeth the size of bananas, each serrated like a steak knife and capable of crushing bone with a bite force exceeding any terrestrial animal before or since. Unlike the earlier Allosaurus, T-Rex had a massively reinforced skull, forward-facing eyes for depth perception, and a sense of smell so powerful it could detect prey from miles away. Its tiny arms, often mocked, were immensely strong for their size, possibly aiding in grappling prey during the kill. But despite its fearsome reputation, T-Rex was not simply a mindless killer. It was an intelligent, strategic predator, and perhaps also a scavenger when the opportunity arose, willing to exploit any available food source. The Cretaceous also saw an explosion in the evolution of armored dinosaurs like Ankylosaurus, living tanks covered in bony plates and wielding massive tail clubs that could shatter a predator's legs, and the rise of the ceratopsians, whose frilled skulls and horns came in an astonishing variety of shapes and sizes, each adapted to the needs of its species. This was also the age when feathered dinosaurs became increasingly common, blurring the line between non-avian dinosaurs and the birds we know today. Velociraptor, a small but lethal predator from Asia, was covered in feathers and hunted with a level of cunning and agility that made it one of the most dangerous pound-for-pound killers of its time. Raptors like Velociraptor and Deinonychus hunted in packs, using their sickle-shaped toe claws to slash at vital areas of their prey, a technique perfected over millions of years of evolution. In the skies, birds diversified rapidly, some with toothy beaks and clawed wings, others already looking remarkably like modern species. The Cretaceous seas were no less spectacular. Massive mosasaurs, serpentine marine reptiles up to 15 meters long, ruled the deep, hunting giant fish, ammonites, and even other mosasaurs. Pterosaurs, now highly specialized, ranged from sparrow-sized insect hunters to colossal giants like Quetzalcoatlus, with wingspans exceeding 10 meters, patrolling coastlines in search of prey. Yet amid this evolutionary flourishing, dark omens loomed on the horizon. Volcanic activity in what is now India began producing the Deccan Traps, vast basalt flows, releasing enormous amounts of carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, slowly altering the global climate. Sea levels fluctuated, coastlines shifted, and some species began to decline. The ecosystems of the Cretaceous, though rich and resilient, were under pressures they had never faced before. Still, to the dinosaurs themselves, life went on much as it had for millions of years. Herds migrated, predators hunted, and new species rose to replace the old. In the final few million years of the Cretaceous, North America was home to some of the most iconic dinosaurs ever to walk the earth: Triceratops, Caenylosaurus, Edmontosaurus, and of course, the towering T-Rex. These species shared the land, with smaller mammals still mostly nocturnal, that scurried through undergrowth and burrows awaiting their chance to thrive, should fate ever tip the balance in their favor. No one, not even the tyrant king himself, could have foreseen that this balance was about to shatter in the most violent way imaginable. Somewhere far away, a mountain-sized rock was hurtling through space on a collision course with Earth, an asteroid that would arrive in a single moment but erase tens of millions of years of evolutionary triumph. The stage was set for an ending, so abrupt, so catastrophic, that it would mark one of the most pivotal turning points in the history of life on our planet. It was a day like any other in the late Cretaceous, somewhere around 66 million years ago, when life thrived in lush forests, vast coastal plains, and inland river valleys teeming with dinosaurs of every shape and size. Triceratops grazed on low shrubs, while hadrosaur herds splashed through muddy shallows. And high above, pterosaurs glided effortlessly in the warm air. The apex predator Tyrannosaurus rex patrolled its domain with supreme confidence, while smaller mammals foraged, quietly underfoot, unaware of the monumental shift about to occur. Far beyond Earth, an asteroid roughly 10 to 12 kilometers wide, a city killer on an incomprehensible scale, had been drifting silently through the solar system for millions of years, its fate sealed by the unyielding pull of gravity. Traveling at over 20 kilometers per second, slammed into Earth near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, striking the shallow waters of the ancient Gulf of Mexico with an energy equivalent to billions of Hiroshima bombs. In a fraction of a second, the asteroid vaporized rock, ocean water, and itself, excavating a crater more than 150 kilometers wide and sending a shockwave that raced around the globe. Temperatures at the impact site soared above the surface of the sun, igniting anything combustible within hundreds of kilometers. A colossal fireball punched through the atmosphere, flinging molten debris across continents. These incandescent fragments rained down minutes later, igniting wildfires on a global scale. The sky itself appeared to be on fire. Mega tsunamis surged outward from the impact zone, towering hundreds of feet high, devastating coastlines thousands of kilometers away. Within hours, the shock waves and seismic energy unleashed by the impact triggered earthquakes and volcanic eruptions across the planet. But the real death blow came from what happened next, as the asteroid's ejecta spread. High into the atmosphere, fine dust, soot, and aerosols formed a thick shroud that blocked sunlight from reaching the surface. For months, perhaps even years, Earth was plunged into a perpetual twilight. Photosynthesis collapsed, killing plants and algae, which in turn starved herbivores, and soon after, carnivores. Temperatures plummeted as sunlight dwindled, leading to a sudden and brutal impact winter. Acid rain formed from sulfur-rich particles lofted into the atmosphere, poisoned freshwater and ocean ecosystems. In the seas, plankton populations crashed, sending shockwaves through the entire marine food chain from tiny fish to giant mosasaurs. On land, even the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex could not hunt without prey, and scavenging could only delay the inevitable. Smaller creatures with lower food requirements, some birds, mammals, and reptiles, managed to cling to life by eating seeds, insects, or decaying matter, hiding in burrows or beneath water to escape the worst heat and cold. But for the vast majority of species, the end came swiftly. Entire ecosystems unraveled within years, if not months. In the chaos, the sounds that had defined the Cretaceous, the trumpeting calls of hadrosaurs, the deep roars of predators, the wing beats of pterosaurs, fell silent forever. More than 75% of all life on Earth vanished, including every non-avian dinosaur, most marine reptiles, ammonites, and countless plant species. The Chicxulub impact, as scientists now call it, did not merely end an era. It reset the planet's evolutionary clock. Yet even in this apocalypse, life's resilience shone through. A few small birds, descendants of feathered theropods, survived and would one day give rise to the avian diversity we see today. Tiny mammals, no longer overshadowed by dinosaurs, began to diversify and spread into niches left vacant by the mass. Extinction. The asteroid strike was both a catastrophe and an opportunity. A brutal reminder that survival often depends on luck as much as adaptation. For decades, the cause of the dinosaurs' demise was a mystery, with theories ranging from volcanic eruptions to gradual climate change, until a thin layer of clay rich in the rare element iridium was discovered in rock layers worldwide, a signature of extraterrestrial origin. This discovery, coupled with the finding of the Chicxulub crater buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula, finally provided the smoking gun. Yet even with the evidence laid bare, there remains something deeply sobering about the idea that a single, one random rock from space could erase creatures that had ruled the planet for over 160 million years. For the dinosaurs, the day the sky fell marked the final chapter in their reign. For mammals, and eventually for us, it was the first page of a new story. The Earth, though scarred, would heal, and in the silence after the impact, the seeds of a new age began to take root. In the haunting silence that followed the Chicxulub impact, the Earth was a place transformed beyond recognition, a wounded planet shrouded in darkness, its once vibrant landscapes reduced to ashen wastelands. The towering forests that had sheltered herds of triceratops now stood as charred skeletal remains. Rivers ran black with soot and debris, and the air was heavy with the acrid scent of burned life. For weeks, perhaps months, the sun was little more than a dull orange disk barely visible through the thick atmospheric haze, and the warmth that had nurtured the lush Cretaceous climate was replaced by a bitter, unrelenting chill. Across continents, the mass graves of the Cretaceous lay unmarked, the hulking skeletons of sauropods, the once fearsome frames of Tyrannosaurus, the delicate wing bones of pterosaurs, all left as silent monuments to a vanished world. Yet in the hidden corners of this darkened earth, pockets of life endured. Beneath the soil, in burrows dug deep enough to escape the worst of the cold, small mammals huddled together, their tiny bodies burning precious fat reserves as they survived on stored seeds, roots, and the occasional insect. Along riverbanks and lakes, amphibians and reptiles lingered, their cold-blooded metabolisms allowing them to survive longer on minimal food. In the oceans, life was more fragile still. Plankton populations had collapsed, taking with them the great marine reptiles that depended on them, but a few resilient species clung on in nutrient-rich upwellings, where sunlight still reached. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the earth began to heal. Volcanic activity and the gradual settling of airborne dust allowed more sunlight to penetrate the atmosphere, and the frozen grip of the impact winter began to loosen. Green shoots emerged timidly from the ashen soil, seeds that had lain dormant. Through the chaos now germinating in the faint warmth, ferns, the first plants to reclaim scorched landscapes, spread rapidly across continents, painting the land with fresh life. These new ecosystems were simple and fragile, but they were a beginning. For millions of years after the impact, Earth was a different world, cooler, less lush, but teeming with opportunity for survivors. Without the dominance of non-avian dinosaurs, ecological niches that had been locked for over 160 million years suddenly stood vacant. Mammals once no larger than a badger and confined to nocturnal lives in the shadows now ventured into the open. Freed from constant predation, they began to experiment with size, diet, and form. Some evolved into agile climbers to exploit the regrowing forests, others into swift runners on open plains, and still others took to the water in pursuit of fish and aquatic plants. This burst of evolutionary experimentation marked the early stages of what scientists call the Cenozoic era, the age of mammals. Birds, descendants of the small feathered theropods that had survived, diversified as well. With the skies empty of pterosaurs, they evolved into a dazzling array of forms. From small songbirds to giant flightless predators that dominated certain regions for millions of years. Reptiles, too, found new footholds with crocodilians, snakes, and lizards. Adapting to changing climates and landscapes, the recovery was not uniform. Some regions rebounded faster than others, while certain lineages remained trapped in marginal habitats for eons before expanding. Over tens of millions of years, the scars of the impact faded from the Earth's surface, but in the fossil record, they remained forever etched. What had been the reign of the dinosaurs had become the reign of mammals, a rise that would ultimately lead to primates and eventually to humanity. Yet even as life reclaimed the planet, the shadow of the asteroid's lesson lingered. It was a reminder that no species, no matter how dominant, is immune to the whims of cosmic chance. The very mammals that thrived in the dinosaurs' absence owed their existence to the disaster that had erased the giants before them. And as humanity one day looked to the stars searching for other worlds, they would carry the legacy of that ancient day, an understanding that the same skies that inspire wonder can also harbor unimaginable destruction. In the silence of the post-impact world, in the lonely calls of the first birds over fern-covered plains, the planet had begun writing a new chapter. From the ashes of one world, another had been born, smaller at first, but destined to grow, to diversify, and to eventually shape the earth in ways the dinosaurs never could. And so, while the story of the dinosaurs ended in fire and darkness, the story of life on Earth continued, altered forever, yet driven by the same relentless will to survive that had sustained it since the very first cells stirred in ancient seas. The age of dinosaurs had passed, but the age of mammals was only just beginning. A testament to the resilience of life and its ability to flourish even after the most unimaginable catastrophe. And as the sun once again rose fully over a green and vibrant earth, there was no roar of Tyrannosaurus to greet it, only the flutter of wings and the rustle of mammals in the undergrowth, heralding a new dawn.